Welcome everybody to the second episode of Vibe with Venerables. 1 hour of live Dharma and dialogue where you get to ask questions to a great Venerable. I'm Ming, co-founder of Buddhism-dot-net and your host. This week, we continue to have the wonderful Bhante Buddharakkhita with us. The most venerable Bhante Buddharakkhita is the founder and abbot of the Uganda Buddhist Center. He is also the supreme Buddhist leader of Uganda, an author, and a visiting professor. So last week, Bhante came to speak to us about freedom from anger. And this week, he's going to take an even broader view, and he's going to show us emotional management techniques to help us transform difficult emotions into insight and wisdom. So as usual, Bhante will speak for roughly 30 minutes and then take your questions live. And this session, as usual, be recorded and then uploaded into YouTube later. So with that, Bhante, welcome. Thanks for coming again. And I see that you now have extra light. So last week the Bhante's light was broken, and so he was a bit darker, and I had to resist making a joke about dark Africa, and so now this week his light is repaired. And so with a newly enlightened Bhante, can I invite you, Bhante, to as usual lead us with a start with by leading us on a prayer, and if you'd like to, please start also with a 1 minute meditation. And the floor
Okay.
is yours, Bhante.
Thank you very much, Ming, for your wonderful introduction. Let's start with a prayer. I'm praying for the world and all of you. May you have a long life. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering and its causes. Sabitio vivajantu sabarogo vinasatu mate bhavantantarayo sukidiga bhava abhivadana sirisa nicha buddha pachaino Chattaro Dhamma Vantante Ayuvanno Sukham Balavat Sabba Mangala Rakantu Sabba Devata Sabba Buddhanubhavena Sabba Dhammanubhavena Sabba Sanghanubhavena Sada Soti Bhavantu Te. May you all be well, happy and peaceful. May you be free from suffering and its causes. May you be protected by the power of the Buddha Dhamma and Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay,
Sadhu.
So let us meditate for 1 minute.
Okay.
M&M, minute meditation. Take a deep, slow breath. Let go of the past and the future, and abide in the present moment. Be aware of the whole body sitting here, all the touch points, wherever the body is touching, and relax into the present. Reflect along these lines. May I be well, happy and peaceful. May all beings be well, happy and peaceful. Having seen that all beings like oneself have a desire for happiness, one develops loving kindness for all beings. May you be well. So, thank you. Okay, so that's our minute meditation. All right. So what next?
Next is you, Bhante. Your talk.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I'm so happy to really share with you more about difficult emotions, emotions as a broader picture. Last time we talked about anger is one of the emotion, and now we are going to broaden to include other emotions. And since all emotions are related, so you are going to see the similar approach like we used to anger. Okay, emotion. What's emotion? From a Buddhist perspective, emotion is a mind state. And we shouldn't confuse emotions with what we call feelings. Feelings are very clear, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. And are very clearly divided from Buddhist point of view. In fact, from a Buddhist perspective, we don't have mixed feelings. We don't mix feelings. Yes, so, and even categorized differently in the 5 aggregates of clinging. There's a body, material body, there's feelings, which is the second, and then there's perception, then mental formation. That's where we found so many mind states, and then consciousness. So you should know exactly where it comes from the Buddha's menu. We should know that. So that then we don't confuse, because once we confuse things, then it becomes very difficult to deal with. So emotions are just mind states. It's part of the fourth category in a scheme of 5 aggregates of clinging. So now, how are they different? Of course, from the division of Buddhist psychology and Buddhist teaching is different, but also it's different in that emotions are disorganized. At one moment you feel joy, and then sadness, I got fear, then this and that, So they're disorganized. Feelings are very organized. And also we can say that feelings, maybe they take a little bit of time to kick in, but emotions have a very quick arising, At one moment you are really enraged with anger. At one moment you get news, and they really actually you are in another gear, So the quicker arousal, very quickly to kick in, So I think that the basic difference we should know. And then how many emotions? They are countless. I mean, psychology tried to really put it together, at least Western psychology. But at least from a Buddhist point of view, we can really now distinguish between what skillful emotions and unskillful emotion. So we divide it in 2 categories. One is skillful, and that means wholesome, that generosity, loving kindness, compassion. Another one is unskillful. Most people talk about negative emotion, difficult emotion, destructive emotion. But here I want to really make that distinction that we call them unskillful, in that they are leading to suffering for ourselves, for others, and both. So that's the distinction. If something is skillful, then it's leading to happiness for oneself, for others, and both. I mean, we can talk more distinctions, but at least that basic distinction we can tell between emotions. I don't want to use the word so much positive and negative, difficult and easy, but I want to use that standard classification. It's wholesome and unwholesome, or skillful and unskillful. So now, there is some kind of interesting language here in French. They call emotion like envers, which means to move, agitate. All these definitions actually point to what the nature of emotion, especially the difficult one. You agitate, you get agitated, you move, So I think this is very interesting how the language captures also the meanings of these things. Okay, that's the emotions, you know what it is, but now how to really turn it into insights. You see, I have a very good approach to these things in my life. And this approach has helped me a lot. It all started when I was living in West Virginia, when there was a lot of snow. And I used to carry water in my kuti to really make, because it was not electric heated, it was wood heated. So we used to fire up stoves and make sure that we get warm in winter in West Virginia. So people used to carry water all the time to put it in their kutis so that they have more humidity. But for me, what I did was actually to say, why do I have to carry water? So what I did is to shovel snow in my way, in my path, and put in a stove in a basin on top of the stove. So that meant that I don't have to carry water all the way from the monastery to my kuti. I would just really, as I was shoveling my path to the kuti where I was staying, I was actually getting endless resources of water, So I said, why don't I do that to emotions? Instead of just eliminating all these emotions in my life, why don't I recycle them? So I started recycling emotion, and I said, okay, this emotion, anger is here, fear is here, but how can I turn into wisdom so that I become wiser even when the emotion is around? And that's exactly the methods we're using here. Just like last time, we used the methods of male, which is from actually Buddhist scriptures. Again, the same thing. I'll just add on more methods, more methods. Like if you have any emotion, whether the generosity, even awesome, skillful emotions, you need to develop them. Generosity, you become mindful of the presence of your generosity and the absence of it. I said, that was not so generous. That's the absence. Then the presence, wow, I'm able to help this person. I mean, in fact, the Buddha encouraged it. Buddha encouraged it to reflect on your generosity. Let's say if you do act of generosity, don't just watch your breath in the beginning, breathe in, breathe out. We are not balloons, So really reflect on your generosity. And in Buddhist teaching, we call that Dana-anussati. Dana-anussati means reflecting on your generosity. If you're a person who's generous, sit down or walking or standing, reflect on your generosity. That brings a lot of wisdom and joy and all these things. So then that's about mindfulness of your fear. Be aware of fear, and just bring your mindfulness to any emotion. In fact, make the emotion your subject of meditation. I call it recycling emotions. So just make it the subject of object of your attention, and then you're going to see in the same way we talked about last time. Have a proper attitude, not to push it away. Even if it's difficult, try to understand it so that you can gain more wisdom. That's what we call understand. That's a proper attitude. Then last time also we talked about what we call insight. Get into insight into the condition for the arising of this particular emotion. What are the conditions for arising of aversion, for example? And was attention, we talked about last time. So get insight into impermanence nature, the universal characteristics of the emotion. It's impermanent, they are, in fact, they're permanently impermanent, they're changing all the time. Then the unsatisfactory nature of the emotion, and also the impersonal nature of the emotions. Also, we talked about that. And also in male, we talked about letting go. Yes, letting go is not only just letting go of the emotion, but also some psychic irritants of conceit, craving, also wrong views that this is me. Most people identify themselves, I'm a fearful person. No, I mentioned last time, don't have copyrights. Yes, so these was methods we talked last time, male. Now I would like to continue on and more methods on how to deal with the emotions. Again, as usual, I'm going to draw from original teaching of the Buddha, the Pali Canon. The sutta is called removal of difficult thoughts. Vitaka Santana Sutta. It's in the Majjhima Nikaya. I'm going to follow that discourse. So now you already have 4 ways of dealing with the emotions, male. We are going to add more. R, replacement method. Whenever there's an emotion, replace it with its opposite. What's the opposite of greed as an emotion? It's generosity. You replace it with mindfulness. We substitute it whenever there's a generosity, stinginess, He said, no, I'm going to do quite the opposite. I'm going to be generous. In the realm of generosity, it takes us to being grateful. Grateful to people who are generous, and also grateful to everything. And also being contented. Contented with what you have. Contentment doesn't mean complacence. Okay, I have so much. No, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to give. I'm just going to be contented with what I have. No, 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 no. From Buddhist perspective, contentment takes 3 levels. One is be contented with what's available, with what's within your means, and with what is suitability, with what's suitable. So now, if I'm contented with this cup, that means time 3. It's available, it's suitable. You can see a temple there. And also it's within 1 means. I just can't stretch my head and reach it. So this is generosity, Then with the other emotions, like for instance, anger or aversion. Actually, this has a lot of cousins and friends. So when we talk about aversion or anger and all these names, so there are other cousins depending on the time. Let's say if it's the future, you are aversive about the future, this anxiety. When you are really aversive to the present moment, that's fear. When you're aversive to the past, we get into problems. Aversive to the past takes us to worry, guilt, remorse, also grief. So now, when we are now really designing ways how to turn difficult emotion into insights, then we will have to look at what kind of aversion am I having? Is it of the past? Even there's worry, actually, commission and omission. We actually commit unskillful stuff, things, and also we omit good things that we ought to do, but we don't do it. So we have to look at what kind of aversion. Is it the past? Is it present? Or in the future? Once we get it, then we again use the same method, replacement. We replace with the opposite. What's the opposite of aversion? Loving kindness, compassion, and on and on. So you really find out that you can always deal with this difficult emotion. Another substitution is a confusion with maybe you are ignorant or deluded. Substitute it with the understanding and wisdom. And of course, I have to deal here with fear separately, because fear is also a very difficult emotion that can take hold of us. So substitute with courage. For me, starting Uganda Boot Center in Uganda, I had to be courageous. Sometimes there was a lot of forces that could easily discourage me and go back to Asia where things are easier for me, or even the United States. But coming to Uganda here, though I was born in Uganda, it was so difficult. Sometimes even they could confuse my gender. Is it a female or a male? Who cares anyway? And so this was very common for me always to have this emotion, and I used to do substitution method. So then we go to another way, which is called another method, we call it reflection. Reflection, we need to reflect on emotion. When we have emotion, we need to really practice mindfulness also by reflecting on the consequences. When I'm in this state of mind, when I'm angry, what am I getting? What's the trade-off? What's the trade-off? Am I peaceful? Am I happy? Or am I tight? Am I suffering? Once we know what we are feeling through reflection, we normally actually try to put a gentle brake on emotion. I give you an example. When you're driving in the United States, everywhere around the world actually, but let me give an example in the United States. When you're driving very, very fast, and then you see a traffic police, in the US they call cops, and now you know that you're going to get a ticket, and these tickets are very expensive. Do you continue driving very fast or you reduce? Chances are that you're going to reduce your speed of driving. And why do you reduce the speed of your of driving? is because you are reflecting that if I'm caught by the police, I'm going to get a very expensive ticket. So the same thing when you are enraged, we are in difficult emotion, try to use some reflection. When I continue on in the same vein of being angry, what ticket am I going to get? For me, most of the tickets I used to get is I don't have peace of mind. And that's the last thing you want to do to lose your peace of mind. It's a very expensive ticket. So, in other words, you can take almost 2 days to go back to baseline. So, for me, it's an expensive ticket. So, when we reflect like this, then we can actually really handle these emotions. And other reflections that I think we found out in the scripture themselves is D, I call it triple D, triple D. D as in dog. Danger, you reflect on the danger of the difficult emotion. In fact, the Dalai Lama said that anger is one letter less of which is a D. You know, danger and anger, it's only one letter missing. So whenever you are in a realm of anger, you know that danger is also very close. Yes, so that's reflection will remind you danger and anger. So reflect, okay, I'm in danger zone now. Danger. Yeah, I'm in danger zone, reflect. So then another reflection of D is defilement. Whenever you give in difficult emotion like anger, next time you get more angry. In other words, if today you are 10% angry and now you are not mindful enough, next time you'll be 20% angry. In other words, it digs trenches so that next time you're going to be triggered again into negativity. So that's why it's very, very important to really reflect that, okay, my mind is going to be defiled if I'm angry. My mind is going to be defiled when I'm fearful, when I have worry. So then, once you do that, then you actually reduce your emotion. Then the last reflection, of course, there are so many, but the last reflection is called degradation. Degradation. Reflect that whenever I'm angry. It's going to degrade my status. And for me as a monk, I use it a lot. I mean, you're the one who's teaching about anger. Now you're a monk, you're putting on robes, and then you're angry. Now, I reflect a lot that this is going to degrade my status. People say, "Wow, this monk cannot figure it out." I get a lot of provocation. I'm telling you, when I'm in airports, especially when people look at me and as if I'm falling from heaven. I mean, these robes as a monk, the people call us Chinese, but this is an African. No, it can't happen. This is an African, and robes are Chinese and India. So people cannot figure out, they cannot put the two together, and always they talk a lot of stuff here. He's going to mental hospital. In Uganda, they say you're going to mental hospital. So what can you tell people who are telling you to go to mental hospital and the morning you just cleared your mind after meditation session? A good one, by the way. So anyway, I use a lot of this method myself, and it helps to fuel the emotion. So we go to another very important method also. We call it redirection. You redirect. The Pali Canon talks about asati manisikara, which is Pali. I don't want to use a lot of Pali, but this is I'm going to use it. Very interesting. This is now the Buddha telling us don't pay attention. In many ways, the Buddha is telling you to pay attention, but he's talking about asati manisikara. Don't pay attention to that state of mind. In other words, another fancy way of saying this is redirect your mind. Redirect your mind to something wholesome. So, in other words, in fact, actually, before I tell you this, sometime when you are talking with somebody, two of you dialogue, and somebody comes, Ming, give me some 1 minute, 2 minutes. No, no, no. I need to talk to you. I'm going now. My plane is going. So, can you give me 1 minute too? Then you start talking to this person, which is the third person. It's just amazing. When you come back, you start asking, oh, my dear Ming, what were you talking about? So you lose the thread. It's amazing that you lose the thread. So we can use the same thing, which I call redirection. You can redirect to the breath. Take a deep breath when you have a difficult emotion. Wow, it's amazing. And then you can redirect to the body, come back to the body. You can even redirect to the space. I used to do a lot of this stuff. Like when I have difficult emotion, I would just lie down in this meditation center on the ground and I look at clouds passing through the sky. So what I would say, wow, the sky is my mind. And these emotions are just clouds. It's amazing how they cause the effect of movement. And I just say, wow, these emotions are like conduit. They're just moving through my body, like clouds moving through the sky. That's called redirection. And now another way is go and walk, have a good walk in the nature. Another one, take a break. Take a break. So now this has a scientific base. I was reading a book by Ming, it's called Search Inside Yourself. And he was trying to figure out this actually, what exactly happening scientifically. Actually, what's happening from a biological point of view, human beings have what we call sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. On one side of this sympathetic nervous system is when actually the heart, we are talking about hormones. So that means when we are under stress and anger, then adrenaline kicks in and all that. So it takes us to one side of this nervous system whereby the heart rate beats very fast, the breathing in very fast. All this is biological to help us to save our life and for our genes to survive. And now that even brings us under stress, and then when you're under stress, anger is going to continue. When you take a break, let's say you redirect your mind to something different, like the breath, it's amazing you cross over to what we call parasympathetic nervous system, whereby the heart rate roars and everything calm down, and now also emotions are going to come down. That's a biological expression. This talk, we're not going to talk so much about these systems, but at least you know how it switches from sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system, and you overcome the emotions. Okay, now we go to the retracing. That's another method. Really, this method also works with dealing with difficult emotion. So you really go back now behind what's behind the scenes. While reflection was forward looking, this now going back. What's happening now? I'm here, but why am I angry? Why am I feeling like this? So, in other words, it's just looking at the roots. What are the springboard of this emotion? Like, for instance, when you have a lot of fear, you go back. Why am I having a lot of fear? You can even refer to the Dhammapada. Dhammapada talks about fear comes from craving. Craving, that's a nourishing root for fear. Then you go back. What's the nourishing root for craving? It's of course aversion. Hmm? Aversion, or you can even look at this way: fear, then craving, aversion, confusion, maybe ignorance, then unwise attention. So you try to find the psychological roots where this stuff is coming from. In other words, if you knock yourself on a stone and then you continue walking, it's about looking back and say, what knocked me? And then you go and remove the stones. If what knocked you was a stone, go and remove it. And then you continue on. So this is called retracing method. And then the fifth one is called resolution, according to the discourse. It doesn't talk about resolution, but it's exactly the word that I'm putting to this. You make a resolution. For me, every single morning, even today, when I wake up, I make a resolution not to be angry, not to be greedy, not to be having confusion, not to have fear, and I make a commitment. What we call in Pali, we call it aditana. Make a strong resolve that I'm not going to waste my life. I'm going to. I have a precious life. I'm not going to waste it through cultivating. Through greed, hatred, and delusion and fear. I'm going to use all my effort to cultivate the opposite, which is generosity, loving kindness, compassion. When you do this resolution, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get angry or fearful. No. What it means is that as you go through your life, through the day, and you get moments of provocation, it's amazing you're going to remember, wow, I made a commitment. I made a resolution not to be greedy and all that. So as a common saying said that mindfulness is not difficult, but what's difficult is to remember to be mindful. So now this helps you to remember if you do this, especially once you wake up, because you are so fresh in your mind and make this resolution that I'm not going to get angry. It's amazing once you are caught up in anger during the day. Wow. you remember, okay, I made this commitment. So then mindfulness can be activated. Lastly, this is not given in a sutta per se. Those methods I've given you, 5 methods already. They are in a discourse. We talk about replacement, reflection, redirection, retracing, and resolution. I want to borrow one more method, which is forgiveness. Forgiveness and reconciliation also, they can help you to overcome the difficult emotion. You forgive. The Buddha said, "Forgive." A person who forgives is wise. So you forgive, because when you forgive yourself and forgive others, you are going to overcome this aversion and also this difficult emotion of anger and the irritation and all the things. So forgiveness doesn't mean to forget. It means the willingness to let go of the emotion commotion that really hinder our life and makes us really sick and toxic. So this is very, very important. And reconciliation, of course, takes two. As they say, it takes two to tango. So reconciliation, it takes two at the minimum to really resolve your stuff. And I think for today, this is what we have discussed, and I want to remind you the arising of emotions is beyond our control. But mindfulness of emotions can make a difference between being free and being in bondage. Thank you very much for your attention. May you be well, happy, and
Thank you, Bhante.
yes.
So now we've entered the Q&A part of our program. So the way it's going to work is very simple. On Zoom, there is a function for raising your hand virtually. For me, it's under the React, the menu. So you just click on, if you want to ask a question, you can just click on raising your hand, the hand raising button, and then I will call on you. And for those of you who don't know what it is or how to figure it out, you can feel free to just wave at the screen, and if you catch my attention, I'll get to you. So while waiting for a question, Bante, I have one to ask you. Can you remind us what are the hours again? So you told us about 5 hours today. What I remember is start with reflecting, right?
Yes,
This
one
first
is
hour,
reflecting.
reflecting.
No, one is replacement.
Replacement. Yes, yes, I
It's the
remember
opposite,
because yes,
substitute.
the Buddha had a very nice analogy there. He said in the woodwork, right? In the pack is rotten. You put a good pack and replace the old one with a new one by hammering it. Yes, right. So first is replacement. And then we
Yes,
reflect, like you say, reflect on it, reflect on,
yeah,
and then you talk about the D's, right? The dangers,
3D.
the
Eh?
3D, which are
Danger,
danger,
defilement.
defilement,
Another one is degradation.
degradation,
Degradation. Yeah,
yes, degrading. And for me, there's a
from
fourth D.
from A to C.
Okay, for me, there's a fourth D. Top. Okay,
Yes,
so we reflect, and then what are the others?
redirection.
Redirection. So
Mm.
changing, yes, so redirecting of attention.
Yes,
Like from
and then
something that is bothering me to something that doesn't bother me, which is my breath,
yes, your breath.
mm,
Yeah,
my body,
your
and so
space,
on. Mm,
space around. And we talked about sympathetic nervous system and
mm,
parasympathetic nervous. You want to
mm.
cross. Yeah, you
Yes,
want to cross. Mhm.
yes. And then you talk about reconciliation,
No, no, no. We talked
uh,
about retracing. Go back.
retracing. Go back.
Yeah, the
Retrace.
opposite
Go
of
back.
reflection. Yeah, the opposite
Yes.
of reflection. Yeah,
Okay.
forward
Okay.
looking,
Uh-huh.
backward looking.
Okay.
Redirection.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
retracing.
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 Yes. See where you came
Yeah,
from.
go,
Yeah. And
go back.
okay.
This is it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And finally, forgiveness and reconciliation.
Resolution. We talked about resolution.
Resolution. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
Okay,
Okay.
resolution.
Good.
And then
Yes.
lastly, forgiveness and reconciliation.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. This is
Yes.
the pirate method because it's R R R. I'm kidding. Okay, so with that, friends, any questions from anybody? Okay, we have Louis. I'm going to see if I can unmute Louis. Let's see. Okay. I think Louis, are you unmuted? Yes. Okay. The floor is yours,
Hello.
Louis.
Hi there. Hi, thank you. Hi, thanks again for the wonderful talk. One of the things too, Ming, I was remembering as Bhante was going through the talk and mentioning specifically the three Ds there, danger, defilement, and degradation, that was something that I had really responded to with from your book, Buddhism for All. That was something associated with kind of your treatment of right effort that really got my attention and that I had not seen before. I've been finding very helpful, kind of maintaining the awareness of the three Ds there. And it's interesting to hear that in relation to this talk. And then my question, Bhante, is as you said early in the talk, the classical teachings place emotions under the aggregate of sankhara or mental formations, kind of emphasizing the volitional aspect, I assume. I mean, this is sort of the way that I see that. Whereas, as you know, and I think you kind of mentioned and touched on this some, that in some Western sort of clinical psychology models, especially in trauma work like somatic experiencing, emotions are also deeply tied to bodily sensations and nervous system patterns, as you mentioned. So my question is, how might we skillfully sort of integrate this somatic body-based dimension of emotions with the understanding of emotions as sankhara or mental formations in the Abhidhamma framework?
Okay, thank you very much, my friend. Lewis, is that your name?
Louis, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. Last time also you asked a very good question. Actually, when we are talking about this psychological distinction between these aggregates, the five aggregates, is for the sake of understanding. But everything is intertwined. You cannot separate them. So now, it's just like when you have a car. You can really tell people that this is a carburetor, this is an engine, this is a wheel, this is I mean, different parts. You can tell people, and it helps when you're going to buy a spare part, you know. But once the car starts running, those things are all running together, you know. Even when now come to the five aggregates, I want to make this. I think now you talk about five aggregates like this. You see, these are five aggregates. And the Buddha, why I use the five is because it really entails the totality. The totality of everything is total. That's numerical. So this is body, this is perception, I mean, this feeling, this is perception, this mental formation, this consciousness. Okay. Okay. Now, let me use these hands to lift my cup, you know. I can't lift a cup like this. You know, I can't. You know, I can't lift a cup like this. I can't. So if I want to lift this cup, I have to do like this. All work together. You cannot separate them. You know, no more can you separate water from waves. But you can tell people that you know the ocean has waves. You know, so now in terms of practice, it's very very important to know that the real issues and the tissues. You remember last time?
Yeah.
So everything's intertwined. That's why I was even talking about the central nervous system. Yes. So the emotions are really, they kick into the hormones. And this is the body based. Hormones have glands, you know. So, my friends, yes, I know somatic experiencing, and I love that trauma because that was my research about trauma, healing trauma. I love very much about the. I've read a book about Stephen Levine. I'm sorry, not what's called Levine. Eh? Who's that Levine? I have many books here.
The Body
Trauma.
Keeps the Score, I believe, is one book.
Yes, I have all these books here actually. I have a lot of books here. So even if from a Buddhist, that's why I like that modality, because that's the closest we get to Buddhism. Really, the body is a foundation. So I want to tell you that that's the best way to deal with emotion, whereby you really tap into the body. Last time also I talked about it, that when Ming asked me what to do next, fast track it in the mind and then go to the body. You know, it's so related. You cannot really separate them. Yes, and you know, you have to deal with everything together. And if it's being felt in the body, just feel in the body, be with the body. And this is really actually where we have to talk about really knowing and understanding is very important. And also when we come to practice, everything come together. It's just leave it the foundation of mindfulness. We distinguish them that this is the foundation of the body, this is the foundation of feelings, this is the foundation of mind states, and these dhammas. So we learn that, which is very good, so that we don't get confused. But when we start with practice, you don't practice only the body. Let's say if the first thing is to do mindfulness or breathing, as the foundation says like this, you first even do walking to go to sit and meditate. Yeah, and also when you are sitting there, something comes into the mind. But the whole sutta talks about 21 ways of mindfulness, but we don't practice them in that order. We don't practice them in that order. So even with emotion, we don't practice them in that order. Okay, I will start with the mind, in the body, or with body and mind. It's just once things kicks in, nowhere it's more prominent. That's why there's a very good rule about meditation. Be aware of whatever's arising when it becomes prominent. So if the emotion just start to be from the body, then be aware of it. If you just confusing the mind and you are bewildered, you don't know even the distinction between emotion and feeling and this and that. So it's good to sort it out. Okay? Thank you very much. I hope it helps. So the whole thing you need to practice together.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Alina.
Thank you very
Yes.
much,
Good.
Bhante.
You're welcome.
My issue is it's rising from forgiving, resolving, and letting go. I always get issues with that because when I look at resolving, sometimes this comes about like when the other party, maybe if you have issues with someone, when that person is really willing to give in to to give a chance or a room for you to discuss about the issue and try to resolve that issue out. But now in cases where the person is not willing to really discuss with you, and for you, you're now looking at resolving the issue, but this other party, the party you're having issues with, is not really ready to discuss anything with you. And maybe you decide to maybe let things go, but you're letting things go, yet you've not resolved anything. And then this one keeps on haunting you all the time, putting it into that element of suffering all the time, because you keep guilty, you didn't solve anything, nothing was resolved, and you just let go. How do you go about that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alinda. Actually, last time we talked about letting go is not superficial letting go, you know. It's not about forgetting. It's otherwise we'll be spiritual. It's called spiritual bypassing. It's not letting go, you know. By the time we reach letting go, we've done a lot of work. We've done mindfulness. We learn about proper our attitudes. We have got insights. In other words, we have really recycled our emotions. So we are really now on the benefit side, that actually we have gone all nuggets of wisdom is under our belt. You know? Then we talked about also letting go, not so much of okay, let go. So anger is natural process. Last time when I gave analogies about keeping ice in a refrigerator, and if you want to smash it, there's two ways of doing it. One by effort and smash it, but still it doesn't melt good. I say, okay, now if I can put this ice out of the refrigerator and I need to melt it, just put it in the temperatures where it formed. I mean, if it was a temperature which was so cold, then put in warm temperature. It will melt effortless. It will make effortless. You don't need to go and buy a hammer and hit it. You don't have to force yourself to melt ice if you just put in opposite conditions. So the same thing about letting go is not mechanical. It's just something that comes naturally out of it, just like when the mother's pregnant, naturally it has to give birth. So now these are things that really will come if you follow the male thing, you know, and then let go of the what you call conceit, the mind is my anger, the wrong view, and all that. So now, in your situation, always you yourself who is involved in some kind of conflict or misunderstanding, and you know something about Dhamma and how to deal with emotion in a very skillful way, you are the one who is going to benefit a lot because it's healing. You are healing. Now, other people, if they don't want to have peace, that's their problem. They are the one who are going to suffer. You are going to be peaceful, no anger, no what, and you're going to be in Santosa enjoying your life. And these people are going to be raging with the anger, and you don't know. So really, what's the priority is to really cover yourself, get covered. And if these people are not willing, so there's a process. One of them is time. Give things time. Forgiveness, you cannot force it, is a process, you know. Forgiveness is a process. So give it time, give it what you call more wise attention, like you might get a friend who is connected to that person and start to talk to this person, you know, and all that, you know. I volunteer, my friend. Alinda, are you from Singapore? I think so. For me, I was living in Australia, and the couple have not been speaking to each other for the last 10 years. And now they have children, and both sisters are not talking to each other. So when I lived in Australia and Melbourne, and I kept on talking to people separately. During my time, I was so surprised that they came back together, you know. So use friends to intermediate. It's called mediate, you know. Then another thing you can use, this works. This works is from a Buddhist point of view, generosity. Buy something at the end of the year, a gift, Buddha Mass, during Buddha Mass, Visak Day I call Buddha, during Christmas, whatever, you wrap a gift and send, thank you very much. And so there's a way how gifts melts, you know, people. And finally, if none of that work, you can count that there was some dates you are paying, kamiki dates, and wait for next life. At least in this life, you've tried your best. You have a lot of wisdom under your belt. You've tried your best. Don't burn yourself. This is something that you really need to do for your healing. Don't worry so much about others. Last time I talked about Santideva's story, whereby the king wanted to kill all the cows, and then the subjects advised to make a one pair of shoes only, and one cow, and make a good pair of shoes. So I told you, make a very good pair of shoes, which is made of mail. Now I've even given you the arrows. And once you have that one, then you can walk on this world. Other people will hate you. Other people will not hate you. Even all these leaders, including the Buddha, Jesus, all these people, and some people were hating them, and many people love them, but not all people love the Buddha. No way. Even his cousin attempted to kill him. So that's why I say that don't worry if you still have some people that hate you a lot. In fact, they remind you what you should do. Maybe meditate more and all that. Thank you very much, Alinda, for asking this question. I hope it helps.
Okay. Is there any more questions at this time? Martin. Okay, let me see if I unmute
Yeah. Wow, that's a Ugandan. He's in Norway, and Dr. Martin, good friend.
Okay.
And he happened to be even my landlord.
Oh, okay. Okay, be nice to
Yes.
Martin then. Otherwise, he increase the rent for Bhante.
Yeah, we have a center in Kampala, and we rent it for the people in Kampala to have access to meditation. So
Okay.
there's a good friend of mine. We have never met actually, but we hope to meet very soon. Thank you
Okay,
very
let me
much.
bow to Martin. Martin, thanks for taking care of Bhante.
It's
The
nothing.
floor is yours, Martin.
Thank you, Bhante, for this talk. You know a little bit about my background, and there's one thing that you didn't mention in terms of emotions that are difficult in terms of like the influence of alcohol and mind-altering drugs, and the influence on a family when people have this issue, and how they basically it totally destroys a family and messes up relationships. And I have a similar situation whereby I'm in the dilemma between, sometimes you like to just get rid of a headache by just cutting all ties with your past and just moving on and focusing on what's important for you. But all the time, these issues keep on popping up and disturbing your life, basically. And you have all sorts of emotional disturbances then. Like that the other person triggers in you, but also that the other person is dealing with all the time and doesn't, as long as is refusing to deal with the issue of addiction that they have. So much so that sometimes we've initially had to have a forced internment into rehab, and then they came out, and then the same problems recurred, and then it was just going towards chaos, and then we had to redo the same thing again, forced internment. So in a situation like that, whereby there are factors that you can't control, what does one do? Cut the past, cut the link with the past, and move on, or it's a difficult situation.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. Yeah. Actually, is joining us from Norway. He's based in Norway. Yeah. So well, as I told you from the very beginning about this topic, I will have to give a series of talks after the end of June, maybe June. I need to give a series of talks to cover the entire thing, and not even the entire thing. It will take us so many talks, probably even over 20 talks to attempt to cover about how to deal with difficult emotions and all that. So this is a topic I'm very interested in. I'm research. So this is just some scratching the methods I'm giving you. So now this come under the causes of the two causes. We can talk about internal causes, others external causes. Yes, now we are getting to the realm of conflict now. They are what we call external causes and internal causes. So now this is now in the area of conflict and is triggering emotions and all these things. So now we'll talk about this. I've just given only the first two talks, and later on I'll take a break so that other Venerable can give a talk, but I'll pick up from there. Sometime I'll pick it up from there, and I say, okay, here I am. I'm willing to give 1 month worth of talks or 2 months, and then I really maybe I'll cover so many things. But thank you for bringing it up. Actually, the external causes of these emotions really can be political factors, economic factors, then family, cultures, grudges, and all that. So it's a huge thing with even reference from the scriptures. So now we'll touch that later on. But from your question, actually, we cannot cut off people altogether. As I told you, you have to buy time, you have friendship, find a friend, and in many ways you did it actually. Dr. Martin, you remember, you use those resources. You have given time, you've given also friends like me, how I come in, and you keep doing the best you can, you know. The key is just keep on doing the best, because you're tackling something might be even of past life. You are tackling some problem that even I'm telling you, the Buddha himself, they have a conflict and he didn't stop the war. Many wars the Buddha stopped, but there's a war that he didn't stop, and just have to the working of karma to work themselves out, you know. So that's what you have to do. This is not a switch on and off switch to deal with this kind of stuff. So it's just my advice is that don't give up. 2, just keep trying. As along we're trying, we actually getting a lot of wisdom into this. In fact, there's a one story I read that in Burma, people go looking for food and they get lost in some meandering areas. And the more they get lost, the more they get food because they are looking for food. They get lost, they cannot, they go off their path, and then they get lost and only to find the food. It's one of those things you go to a shopping center and the way they design is like a maze, you know? So the more you get lost, the more you buy things. They are very clever. So anyway, in the spiritual realm, when you're on a spiritual path, never be afraid in some triggers in your life. And I give an example, I think, in interest of time. It's just like when you join the gym. Why do you you go to the gym? Is to get more muscles. But when you go there, you just don't go to the gym and just register and start lifting papers. Oh yeah, I want to develop my person. You lift papers. No. So for me, it's as if in a spiritual realm that we are given a lot of tasks, especially when you start a spiritual path, things that can challenge your mind and push you to the limits. Either your brother, your family, or what, your wife, or what, they push your limits to see if you can even push your limit as a spiritual person to continue on. My friend, I've gone it through myself, and my advice is just keep going. Maybe as you keep going, you are developing yourself. 2, never give up. Yes. Even when the factors, there's endless triggers. I mean, you're talking about alcohol addiction. Just don't give up. Just keep going so that you get more spiritual muscles. Don't lift papers, lift more weights. So I'm not inviting to have more brothers to bother you, more friends to bother you. No, don't say, hey, I want to develop spiritual muscles. I put in 100. No. Just deal with the present stuff. Don't give up and keep going. Thank you very much, Martin.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Martin. Yeah, yes. From anybody who say they're calling in from Norway, I always say the same thing. Norway, no way. So stupid joke. And Bhante, Alina typed on chat. She said thank you very much, and she's from Uganda. And I know your door is always open. So for those of you who are in Uganda, or you can travel to Uganda, just feel free to go visit Bhante anytime. He's there. He's always there for all of us. Okay. And with that, Bhante, can I invite you to close this session with a dedication and blessing for all of us?
Okay. So whenever we do good things, we light more candles, and which is light. So we really share the merit. May all these merits did that we have acquired by listening to the Dhamma and also giving a talk, may all these merits benefit all beings. May all beings be well, happy and peaceful. May they be free from suffering and its causes. Akasata chabumata deva naga mahidika punyatam anmoditva chiram lakantu lokasasana chiram lakantu desana chiram lakantu mampara Etawata chakamehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe deva anmodantu sabbe bhuta anmodantu sabbe satta anmodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Now the blessing for all of you, may you have long life, may you be free from suffering and its causes. Chattaro dhamma vantante ayuvanno sukambala bhavatu sabba mangara rakantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena Sabbasanganubhavena sadasoti bhavantu te. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all bow to Bhante.
sadhu. Yes.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yes.
So, friends, thank you for joining us. This recording will be uploaded to the Buddhism.net YouTube channel. So, please feel free to subscribe. Also, feel free to subscribe to our mailing list. Again, Bhante is doing this entirely for free, out of nothing but the goodness of his heart. So, if you like to practice generosity towards him, please donate directly to Bhante's organization, which is the Union and the Buddhist Center. Oh, and in 3 days' time, as Bhante said, we will have another Venerable joining us because we like to rotate our Venerables. And the Venerable joining us will be Master Shoyu for All himself, who is a co-founder of Buddhism-dot-net. And he will be talking about the other side of emotions, which is mental proliferation. And he'll talk about how mental proliferation can lead to conflict and how we can do about it. What we can do about it. And with that, thank you so much all for coming.
Goodbye. See you next time.
Bye.